everyone. Hello, my little dyslexic community. Norda is here and welcome in new episode of Real Talk with Norda. Today, our dear guest is Shaynee Sherwood. She is 29 years old from Tulsa, Oklahoma. She now lives in the Kansas City area. Shaynee was diagnosed with dyslexia in second grade, and recently she was diagnosed with Ireland syndrome. Her mom was biggest support to her because she is dyslexic as well. Shaynee is an elementary school teacher and a new small business owner. She is also an online student at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and she will become in May a health coach. In free time, she enjoys in writing, reading, and yoga. For the future, she will continue to help and teach neurodivergent people. Hello, dear Shaynee. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation. So thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you so much for being here and welcome in Real Talk with Norda. So are you ready for my questions?
I am. Bring them on.
Okay, let's go. My first question for you is, what were your first signs of dyslexia when you started your schooling?
Yeah, so I really got identified really early on. In kindergarten, I don't know if I really stood out from the class or if she was just really in tune with what dyslexia is. But my kindergarten teacher was actually the first. So this would have been like in the mid 1990s here in the United States. Mentioned to my parents that they thought I might be dyslexic. So I was almost held back in kindergarten. They decided to push me forward, and then I moved a lot. And so I went from different regions of the US where different educational expectations were met. And I couldn't get the pattern of 1 through 100. So that was like the really big eye-opening thing of I couldn't recognize patterns. I would kind of seem checked out, like not in a defiant way, but I couldn't follow simple instructions. Struggled with certain words and stuff like that. So I was really flagged early on in life, which was a huge blessing, actually.
Did you get support in school? Like what accommodations did you have in school, like through your schooling?
Right. Yeah. So I got officially diagnosed with dyslexia and auditory processing, which some people argue those are separate things, and some people say it's just part of being dyslexic.
Yes, it's same, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's a big debate, I know. So I kind of consider it the same now. But I was diagnosed with that in second grade officially. And unfortunately, the school district that I was at wasn't very supportive. I was making good grades, but I think they were really just passing me along through the system. And my parents recognized that, especially my mom, who's dyslexic herself. And so there were accommodations at the time. I was part of like a pull-out program where I would get removed from the classroom and go into a special education classroom. I had an amazing special education teacher at the time, Miss Martin, who really helped me in multiple ways. But the scheduling of that wasn't that great. Like they removed me from math, which is what I struggled with the most. And it just wasn't really a supportive environment. And so I had actually be removed from the school. My mom made the decision to homeschool me. So then I was just, received accommodations that way, through homeschooling and individual education. And then when I went to college, that's when I really had to get accommodations. And at first I didn't want them. I didn't really want anyone to know I was dyslexic. I didn't want my professors to think that I was like lazy or just making excuses or wanted it, in an easier manner. I didn't want that. And it really took someone who admitted openly that he was dyslexic and him not receiving the correct support to really ignite like a passion in me that I'm going to get accommodations and I'm going to help others get accommodations, because it is really life-changing. And so in college, I ended up getting extra time to hand in assignments, a private room for testing, kind of grace on certain spelling, and just a deeper understanding from professors of like, this is why I'm struggling. And it really changed my life. I went from someone who was on the verge of dropping out to someone who graduated with 2 degrees with honors. So I'm all about accommodations for sure. So
yes, great. And yeah, that is awesome. And did you struggle like with your negative emotions? You know that I'm pretty passionate about that emotional side of dyslexia. And like, did you struggle with negative emotions through your schooling? Like, for example, low self-esteem, etc. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, the biggest thing was the feeling of isolation. For example, like I didn't do well studying groups. So, I kind of looked like someone who didn't want to make as many friends or form as many connections, but I was like, no, I really just have to go home and do this on my own or it's not going to get done. I'm not, now I am, but at the time I wasn't a person who I couldn't go study in a coffee shop. And a lot of times, as you know, people don't know what dyslexia is. And so even some of my peers would be like, well, why do you get to go test in a private room? And like, why weren't you there for the day of testing? And I said, oh, I get extra time. So I think for me, the biggest thing was knowing how much extra time and how that ate away, I felt like at my life. Was really hard. And sometimes I'd be like, okay, like you should have started this sooner, and the executive functioning side. So being overly hard on myself, and also being a perfectionist when that's like totally unnecessary for anybody, but especially for someone with dyslexia, were probably the biggest things for me that I struggled with.
Yes. And as you said, like that group work was also, and today is really hard for me because like we dyslexics, we are like different, and we sometimes need more time, and group want to be like faster, and you can't be faster because like you need more time to process all of those informations. And yeah, group work sometimes is really hard, but yeah. And could you share with us, how did you deal with your negative emotions? Like, how did your mom support you through your schooling? Like,
Yeah, I'm really fortunate that my mom has such a deep understanding of what it's like, because she struggled and she didn't receive any help and didn't know she had dyslexia until really I was diagnosed. And so she wanted a different path for me, and she wanted me to have a love of learning and more confidence than she grew up having because of that. And so she was a major support in that. And I truly feel sorry for people who don't have that, because I feel like support is really everything, and having this understanding of, I'm not dumb, I'm not stupid, I'm not, my grades don't reflect the person that I am, good or bad. It doesn't reflect the person that I am and my self-worth, And so I really feel like without my mom, I wouldn't have got near as far in my educational journey. And unfortunately, I think the American education system, I know the American education system has a really long ways to go, because I know it's failing so many kids that don't have that right support and go undiagnosed, or don't even know what they have when they are diagnosed. It's not explained to them in an empowering way. So I definitely think support is key. And my mom supported me by encouraging me and just being like, I would panic because I would do something last minute because I probably also have ADHD. So I don't think I probably coped, and that I know I didn't help, cope in the healthiest of ways, where I would just be cranky, or I would just like take a nap, or I was just like, but now later on in life, I have the right coping skills where that's significantly decreased. But before my accommodations, especially, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I was in the worst mood. And I think too, that's so important with like relationships, with, in multiple ways of knowing like, hey, it's my weaknesses right now that's triggering this emotion. It's not you. It's something that I'm going through without having the right support. So I don't think I had really great coping strategies at the time, but once I got accommodation.
Now in that, like my coping strategies and organization is like really hard thing, but I'm fighting against that. So yes, and
I get it.
Yes. And could you share with us like your learning strategies, like through your schooling? Did you like have some learning strategy which helps you to learn like better and faster and those sorts of things. Yeah.
I had a particular business class that I recorded every lesson to, audio recorded. I had to go back and listen to every single business class, and I ended up getting an A, and I think that was like my most rewarding A I ever received, because of all the extra work I put in and how much I love the content and the professor. So I definitely recommend that for more lecture-based classes. I also really learned ways of like asking. I would find particular people in classes that I knew were taking good notes, and like at the end of the year, I'm like, okay, here's a Starbucks card. Like, thank you so much for sharing your notes with me, because at that time, note taking, even in college, I just didn't have the skill set for that, and I would zone out and miss so much because I was taking notes. So just learning that me being focused and not worried about note taking actually works best for me. At least it did at the time. Today, I think I could definitely take more notes, but at the time it was like I would write stuff down and then I would get distracted because I could tell my spelling was wrong. And then I'm like, what did I just write? My handwriting's, messy. And so it just wasn't a tool for me. But I think, finding particular people that can share notes with you, trying to keep a planner, I think is a great thing, that I still implement in my adult life as much as I can. Still some growth in that area for myself, but that's the goal.
Yes.
And, so I just, learning how to type was huge for me too. That opened up like so much more when I became a faster typer. So I think that's like my biggest thing I push with people who have dyslexia. I'm like, you got to learn how to type. You got to get on.
I totally agree. Yes, I totally agree. Sorry for interrupting, but for me, it's really important to learn with PowerPoint presentations, and those certain things can be really helpful because you can put pictures here, like do so many things on that one slide, and that really can help you to like learn faster. And this sort of learning is much easier because it's more organized, and you don't have like thousand papers around you. You have just PowerPoint presentations. So yeah, it's much easier. I totally agree. Yeah,
for sure. PowerPoints are great. And I've even like walked up to people after presentation, like, I really enjoyed your content. Like, can you send me your PowerPoint if it's not like,
same.
I need it. I really do.
Yes, I have one friend and he's really good in PowerPoint presentations, and I'm like always, can you send me this? It's really good PowerPoint. I need to have it. So yeah. PowerPoint is really awesome thing. Yes.
Technology.
Yes, technology is really helpful for us dyslexics because we can like use text to speech or speech to text. We can use Grammarly. We can use so many different things which can make our life much easier. Like, yeah. Do you have some like apps or something like this?
Not so much. I think for me, the ironic thing is I think I was like right on the cusp of like really big breakthroughs with apps. Like right after I kind of graduated college, I was like, I would have like totally used that. Or I was just, so caught up in the fluster of being a student, I didn't take the time to really seek out different tools. So I don't really say today I use a lot. I do put a lot of notes in my phone in general, because I have like multiple notebooks, and like how you kind of mentioned earlier, like we can kind of write and get so many papers going. I'm like, where is it at?
Yes.
So that's definitely like a big resource for me. It's just using my phone and trying not to get distracted by going on other stuff to put the notes in my notes. So that's probably what I do the most.
Yes, for me is like most of the time, like I want to put some note on my phone, and then my friend or someone send me a message, or I see something and it's like, okay, what is my note? What I need to put in? So yeah. And my next question is for you. You're a teacher. That is your job, and could you share with us like how dyslexia influence on your job? You have some dyslexic kids in your class.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah, so I work at a school that they've reversed like the traditional educational setting, and you have to have dyslexia or ADHD to go to the school, along with other learning differences and attention issues. So it's really cool that I'm in an environment that is obviously like so embracive of like what dyslexia is and obviously knows what it's like. So I think for myself, I didn't want to teach in a place and embrace learning differences. I knew it would really be frustrating for me, and I would feel like I would have to try to hide something about myself that A, I'm not ashamed of, and B, like I shouldn't have to hide. And so it's been really cool to kind of see the younger version of myself and be able to help like students. So I'm like, I get it. I know how frustrating it is. I know what it's like to understand content and then come back the next day and it's like brand new for a moment, and these highs and lows of being someone who's neurodiverse. And so for myself, I think the most rewarding aspect is like even moments where I'm like, okay, how do I spell that word? Like I'll be open with my students, like I'm drawing a blank, like give me a second, because I want them to see that that's a normal thing and we should normalize like openly being like, oh, like I call them dyslexic moments, like Miss Sherwood's having dyslexic moment. So that's just been really rewarding and fun, and it's also really reminded me of the importance of my own self-advocacy and asking for what I need, because I can't tell my students to self-advocate if I don't self-advocate. That doesn't make any sense. So it's a daily reminder of the progress I've made and the progress that they're going to make too in their life. And it's a journey. Being neurodiverse, it's not like there's this end destination and anyone's going to wake up and no longer be dyslexic. It's a really heartbreaking but also a really empowering journey all at the same time.
Yes, and you're doing one great thing, because you're showing those kids that it's okay to be a teacher with like spelling difficulties and reading difficulties, and that you can be whatever you want, but you just need to be passionate about that and work hard to become that. So yeah, you're doing great. Or awesome thing for those kids. And could you share with us your dyslexia strengths and weaknesses, like few strengths and few weaknesses?
Okay, I'm going to start off with the weaknesses so I can end on a high. I think executive functioning, one of my biggest weaknesses. I mean, even like logging in, I'm like, okay, what time is it? Like, I got to get there on time for the Zoom. Yes. Okay. But executive functioning and like just keeping my adult life as organized as possible, and the more responsibilities that grow as we get older. So executive functioning, which is part of like waiting last minute. I also have like I mentioned earlier, like I've recently discovered how much of a perfectionist I am.
Yes.
Ironically, I messed up the word perfectionism. so just like I don't think it really comes from like a fear of failure, because I think as a dyslexic we fail all the time in big and small ways. I mean that by like a letter grade standard. I mean like we just missed the mark or misunderstood the instructions or misunderstood the directions, whatever. But I think there's a failure for me that sometimes I won't start on new projects because I'm like, I want it to be perfect and I want the website to be perfect. And it's like, just launch it. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. So that's something that I'm currently really working on in my life. As far as strengths, I think that I'm really more in tune with people's emotions and how they feel about a task, and I can really relate to people. And I think that's such a gift.
Empathy.
And I think that I really enjoy writing, and I think that I'm able to tap in to people's emotions maybe a little bit better had I not had dyslexia and been on that journey. And I think that I'm a really patient person because I want extra time and I want people to be patient with me when I need help. And so I think on a personal level, sympathy and, empathy and patience have been something that I've been rewarded with and throughout my life. And I really like that about myself. And I think it makes all the struggle really worth it because of who I am because of it, truly. So
yes, we when I was like listening your dyslexia strengths and weaknesses, I find so much myself in those. Like first time when we were talking about this interview, you said that you are like my version in United States. So I really, so I really think that I have my version in United States. So, so yes, and for the end, like, could you share with us your message for dyslexics and their parents? Like, what do you think? What is the most important thing for every dyslexic person?
I think realizing that it truly does get better with age and time, and that your life will be easier. And it's going to be challenging at times. It's going to be super at times. You're going to want to give up in certain areas of your life at times with certain projects or education or whatever it may be. And that to push through, to be tenacious, to be resilient, the reward is so great. And that having dyslexia is not a negative thing. There's some struggles that come with it, certainly. But, look as a chance to get to know yourself better as a person. It's part of who I am. It's not just this educational side of me. It's my personality. It's my daily life. It's literally how my brain thinks. And so look as an opportunity to know yourself more.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And thank you so much, dear Shaynee, for being part of Real Talk with Norda. Thank you for this beautiful message to our community. And if you want to learn more about dyslexia, visit Shaynee's and my Instagram account. And don't forget to watch other episodes of Real Talk with Norda. And yeah, see you in some new interview. And thank you, Shaynee, and see you.